When was the last time you saw your mom smile? Mom woke me up at 6 in the morning on Saturday saying we needed to start baking early because Lily's birthday party was that afternoon and we wanted everything to be perfect. She seemed happier than she'd been in weeks, humming while she tied her apron and pulled out all the mixing bowls from the cabinet. I was 9 years old and Lily was turning 5, and Mom kept saying this would be the best birthday my little sister ever had, one she'd remember forever. We mixed the batter together and Mom let me lick the wooden spoon, something she usually never allowed because she was strict about germs and raw eggs. But that morning she didn't care. She just laughed when I got chocolate on my nose and wiped it off with her thumb. We decorated the cake with pink frosting because pink was Lily's favorite color, and I helped spell out, "Happy Birthday, Lily," with rainbow sprinkles while Mom took pictures on her phone. She kept saying how proud she was of me for being such a good big brother and how Lily was so lucky to have me. Then she told me to go write a special card for Lily while the cake cooled, something about how much I loved being her big brother and all the things we'd do together as she got older. I sat at the kitchen table with colored pencils and spent almost an hour writing 3 pages about how I'd teach her to ride a bike and play soccer, and how I'd always protect her from bullies at school. When I showed Mom the card, she read every word carefully, and then started crying, but she was smiling at the same time, so I thought they were happy tears. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe, and kissed the top of my head about 5 times, which was unusual because Mom wasn't typically that affectionate. Dad was always the hugger in our family. Then Mom looked at her watch and said she needed to run to the store real quick to get birthday candles and party hats, because she'd forgotten to buy them yesterday. She asked me to watch Lily, who was still sleeping upstairs in her room, and made me promise not to let her come downstairs until Mom got back because she wanted Lily to see the decorated living room all at once as a surprise. I promised I would, and Mom kissed my forehead one more time, holding my face in both her hands and staring at me with this intense look I didn't understand. "You're such a good big brother, Caleb," she whispered. "Take care of your sister, okay? No matter what happens, you take care of Lily." I thought it was a weird thing to say since she was just going to the store, but I nodded and she grabbed her purse and car keys. I heard the garage door open and her car start up, and then she was gone. That was around 9 in the morning. By 10:30, I started getting a little worried because the store was only 15 minutes away, and she should have been back by now. Lily woke up around 11 and came downstairs asking where Mom was and when her party was starting. I told her Mom went to get supplies and would be back soon, trying to sound confident, even though I was starting to feel anxious in a way I couldn't explain. We sat at the kitchen table with the birthday cake between us, both of us dressed in the nice clothes Mom had laid out for us the night before. Lily kept asking if she could have a piece of cake, and I kept saying we had to wait for Mom and the candles. By noon, I called Dad at his office downtown because I didn't know what else to do, and I was really scared now that something had happened to Mom. Dad answered on the second ring, and I could hear papers shuffling in the background and other people talking. "Hey buddy, what's up? Is everything okay?" His voice sounded normal and relaxed, like it was just a regular Saturday, and he had no idea anything was wrong. I told him Mom had left 3 hours ago to get birthday supplies and hadn't come back yet, and I didn't know what to do because Lily was asking for her, and I was supposed to be watching her, but I was worried. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, so long that I thought the call had dropped. But then Dad's voice came back and it sounded completely different, tight and strained like he was having trouble breathing. "Stay right there with Lily. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming home right now." He hung up before I could ask any questions. Dad got home 20 minutes later, which meant he must have driven way faster than he should have because his office was normally 30 minutes away. He came through the front door looking pale and scared in a way I'd never seen before. His tie loosened, and his shirt wrinkled like he'd been pulling at it. He saw me and Lily sitting at the kitchen table with the birthday cake, and stopped in the doorway, just staring at us with this expression that made my stomach hurt. "Where's Mom?" Lily asked him, swinging her legs under the chair. "When is my party starting?" "Caleb made me a really long card and I want to read it, but he said I have to wait." Dad didn't answer her. He just walked past us toward the stairs, and I heard him running up to the second floor. I heard doors opening and closing, drawers being pulled out, and then this sound that I'd never heard my father make before, something between a gasp and a sob. He came back downstairs a few minutes later, and his eyes were red. "Did you check the garage?" I asked, suddenly thinking maybe Mom had come home and I just hadn't heard her because Lily had been talking so much. Dad shook his head and went through the kitchen to the door that led to the garage, and I heard him open it, and then heard him say a word he never usually said in front of us. He came back and looked at me and Lily, and I could tell he was trying to figure out what to say. "Is Mom okay?" I asked, my voice coming out smaller than I wanted. "Did something happen to her?" Dad sat down in the empty chair at the table, the one where Mom usually sat, and he put his head in his hands for a minute. Then he lifted his head and tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes at all. "Your mom had to go away for a while," he said carefully, like he was choosing each word with extreme caution. "She left a note for me, and she wanted me to tell you both that she loves you very much." Lily's face scrunched up in confusion. "But it's my birthday. She can't go away on my birthday. She promised we'd have a party." Dad's fake smile disappeared, and he looked at the birthday cake sitting between us with its pink frosting and rainbow sprinkles. "I know, sweetheart. I know she promised." But sometimes grown-ups have problems that kids don't understand, and your mom needed to leave for a little while to work on those problems. I felt something cold spreading through my chest, because I was old enough to understand that Dad wasn't telling us the complete truth, that there was something bigger and worse happening that he was trying to hide from us. "Where did she go?" I demanded. "When is she coming back?" Dad looked at me, and I saw something in his face that terrified me more than anything else that day. It was the look of someone who genuinely didn't know the answer to a question. "I don't know, Caleb. The note didn't say. She just said she couldn't do this anymore and that she was sorry." Lily started crying then, not understanding what was happening but sensing from our faces that something was very wrong. "I want Mommy," she kept saying over and over. "It's my birthday, and I want Mommy." Dad picked her up and held her while she cried into his shoulder, and I just sat there staring at the cake that Mom and I had made together just a few hours ago when everything had still been normal. That's when I noticed the corner of a piece of paper sticking out from under the cake stand. I pulled it out carefully and saw it was a note in Mom's handwriting, folded in half. My hands were shaking as I unfolded it and read the words she'd written. "I'm sorry. I can't be their mother anymore. I've tried so hard, but I'm failing them every day, and they deserve better than what I've become. Tell them I love them. Tell them this isn't their fault." The cake was the last good thing I could give them. I showed the note to Dad and watched his face crumple as he read it. He set Lily down gently and went to the kitchen counter where Mom kept her laptop, opening it and typing in her password. I saw him checking her email and her bank account, his face getting more and more tense with each click. "She withdrew all the money from our joint savings account yesterday," he said quietly, more to himself than to us. "She's been planning this." He called Mom's cell phone and we all heard it ringing from somewhere upstairs. He went up and came back down holding her phone, which she'd left on her nightstand deliberately so he couldn't track her or call her. He tried calling her parents, my grandparents, but they said they hadn't heard from her and didn't know where she'd gone. He called her sister Aunt Melissa, who lived 2 states away, and I heard him explaining the situation in a low, urgent voice while pacing around the living room. When he hung up, his face told me that Aunt Melissa didn't know anything either. "I need to call the police," Dad said, pulling out his own phone. But then he stopped and looked at me and Lily, and I could see him trying to decide what to do. If he called the police, he'd have to explain everything to them, and that would make it real and official that our mother had abandoned us. If he didn't call them, he'd have no way to find her or know if she was safe. He ended up calling them, and 2 officers showed up at our house about 30 minutes later. They were nice to us, but I could tell from their faces that they'd seen situations like this before, mothers who just left one day and didn't come back. They asked Dad a lot of questions about whether Mom had been depressed or acting strange lately, whether they'd been fighting, whether there was anyone she might have gone to stay with. Dad tried to answer everything honestly, but I could hear the frustration in his voice because he clearly didn't have the answers they needed. One of the officers, a woman named Officer Patricia Reeves, knelt down to talk to me while the other one talked to Dad in the kitchen. "Did your mom say anything unusual to you this morning?" she asked gently. "Anything that seemed strange or different?" I thought about how Mom had let me lick the spoon, how she'd hugged me so tight it hurt, how she'd made me promise to take care of Lily no matter what. I told Officer Reeves all of that, and I saw her exchange a look with her partner that I didn't fully understand at the time, but would understand later. "It sounds like your mom was saying goodbye to you," she said softly, "even if you didn't realize that's what was happening." The officers took the note Mom had left and photographed it for their records. They said they'd put out a missing person report and check traffic cameras and her credit card activity, but they explained that adults have the legal right to leave if they want to, and unless there was evidence that Mom was in danger or was a danger to herself, there wasn't much they could do beyond trying to locate her. After they left, Dad sat us down in the living room and tried to explain what was going to happen next. He'd have to take time off work to take care of us until he could figure out childcare. We'd have to tell people at school and in the neighborhood that Mom was gone. We'd have to learn how to function as a family without her. Lily didn't really understand. She was only 5 and kept asking when Mommy was coming back to finish her birthday party, but I understood enough to know that our lives had just changed forever. That night, Dad tried to salvage Lily's birthday by putting candles in the cake and singing to her, but it was the saddest birthday song I'd ever heard. Just the 3 of us sitting at the kitchen table in the house that suddenly felt huge and empty without Mom in it. Lily blew out her candles and made a wish, and I knew without asking that she'd wished for Mom to come home. We each had a slice of cake that tasted like dust in my mouth because all I could think about was Mom's hands guiding mine while we mixed the batter, her smile when we'd finished decorating it, the way she'd looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. The next morning was Sunday, and Dad made us breakfast, but none of us ate much. He'd been up most of the night looking at Mom's things, trying to find clues about where she might have gone. He discovered that she'd taken some clothes, but not all of them, her toothbrush and some toiletries, but she'd left behind her wedding ring on the bathroom counter. That detail seemed to hurt Dad more than anything else, the deliberate removal and abandonment of her wedding ring. He called the police again to update them with new information, but they said there was still no activity on her credit cards and no sign of her car. By Monday morning, Dad had to tell our school what had happened. I remember the principal, Mrs. Laura Whitmore, calling me into her office and speaking to me in that careful, gentle voice adults use when they're talking to a kid going through trauma. She said I could talk to the school counselor anytime I needed to, and that my teachers would understand if my grades slipped for a while. I hated the way everyone at school looked at me after that, with pity and curiosity mixed together. Kids asked me where my mom went, and I didn't know what to tell them because I didn't actually know the answer. Lily's kindergarten teacher, Miss Jennifer, called Dad in for a meeting because Lily kept saying her mom was coming back any day now to finish her birthday party, and the teacher was worried that Lily wasn't processing what had actually happened. Dad tried to explain to Lily that Mom might not be coming back for a long time, maybe not ever, but Lily refused to believe it. She kept setting a place for Mom at the dinner table and saving drawings to show her when she got home. A week passed with no word from Mom. Dad hired a private investigator named Donald Archer, who specialized in finding missing persons. Donald found out that Mom had checked into a motel about 3 hours away the day she left, using cash, so there'd be no credit card trail. She'd stayed there for 2 nights, and then checked out, and after that, the trail went cold. Donald showed Dad security camera footage from the motel parking lot, and Dad watched it alone in his office with the door closed, but I heard him crying afterward. Another week went by, and then another. The police told Dad they were moving Mom's case to inactive status because there was no evidence of foul play, and she was clearly leaving of her own free will. They suggested Dad file for divorce and custody on grounds of abandonment if Mom didn't return or make contact within a certain time period. I found Dad looking at family photos late one night when he thought Lily and I were asleep. He was going through albums from when they first got married, from when I was born, from when Lily was born, trying to figure out where things had gone wrong. He had this look on his face like he was searching for clues in those old pictures, some sign that this was coming, that he'd missed. A month after Mom left, Aunt Melissa came to stay with us for a week to help out, because Dad was struggling to manage work and taking care of 2 kids by himself. She tried to get Dad to talk about his feelings, but he kept saying he was fine and just needed to focus on making sure Lily and I were okay. But I'd hear him on the phone late at night calling hospitals and homeless shelters in surrounding cities, anywhere he could think of that Mom might have ended up. He even drove back to the motel where she'd stayed and talked to the staff there, asking if anyone remembered seeing which direction she'd gone or if she'd mentioned where she was headed. No one remembered anything useful. By the time 2 months had passed, our house had settled into a new, horrible normal. Dad had hired a nanny named Colleen Ward who picked Lily and me up from school and stayed with us until Dad got home from work. Colleen was nice, but she wasn't Mom, and every day when she showed up at school to collect us, I felt this sharp reminder that Mom was gone. Dad stopped looking at her laptop and stopped calling her family to check if they'd heard anything. He packed up all of Mom's things that she'd left behind and put them in boxes in the attic, not throwing them away, but getting them out of sight so we wouldn't have constant reminders. Lily slowly started to accept that Mom wasn't coming back to finish her birthday party. She stopped setting a place for her at dinner and stopped talking about her as much, which was somehow worse than when she'd been in denial. It meant she was starting to forget, starting to adjust to life without a mother. I caught Dad crying in the garage one Saturday afternoon when he thought no one was around. He was sitting in his car just staring straight ahead with tears running down his face. 3 months after Mom left, Dad's lawyer Jeremy Walsh called to say that Mom had sent paperwork to a law office requesting a divorce. She didn't provide a return address or contact information, just had the papers delivered through a series of legal intermediaries that made it nearly impossible to trace where she actually was. The papers stated that she was relinquishing all parental rights to Lily and me, and that Dad would have full custody. She didn't ask for visitation rights or any involvement in our lives. The divorce settlement she proposed was that Dad could keep everything, the house and the cars and all the bank accounts. She wanted nothing except to be released from the marriage and from being our mother. Dad signed the papers with shaking hands while I watched from the kitchen doorway. Did she say anything else? I asked. Did she explain why? Dad shook his head without looking up from the papers. Just legal language about irreconcilable differences and inability to fulfill parental responsibilities. Nothing personal. Nothing that helps us understand. Jeremy took the signed papers and said he'd file them with the court and that the divorce would probably be finalized within another month or 2. After he left, Dad finally broke down completely. He sat at the kitchen table where we'd had Lily's birthday cake 3 months ago, and he cried harder than I'd ever seen anyone cry. I failed her somehow, he kept saying. I must have failed her, and I didn't even realize it. I wanted to comfort him, but I was only 9 years old, and I didn't know how to help an adult who was falling apart. I just stood there watching my father cry and feeling helpless and angry at Mom for doing this to all of us. 4 months after she left, we got a letter in the mail with no return address. It was addressed to me and Lily in Mom's handwriting, and Dad opened it carefully like it might explode. Inside was a single page. Mom had written, "Dear Caleb and Lily, I know you probably hate me and I don't blame you. I hate myself for what I did. But I need you to understand something even though you're too young to fully understand it now. I was drowning. Every single day I woke up and felt like I was drowning and I couldn't breathe and I couldn't see a way out. It wasn't because of you or because I didn't love you. You two are the best things I ever did in my life. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself completely, and I didn't know who I was anymore besides someone's wife and someone's mother. I tried to be strong and I tried to keep going, but on Lily's birthday morning I woke up and realized I had a choice. I could stay and keep drowning until I did something much worse to hurt you, or I could leave and give you a chance to have a better life without me dragging you down. I chose to leave because I thought it was the lesser evil. I thought you'd be better off with your dad who is strong and capable and won't fail you the way I was failing you every day. That birthday cake was my way of trying to give you one last good memory of me before I disappeared. I wanted you to remember me smiling and happy, not the broken person I'd become. I hope someday when you're older you can forgive me. I hope you have amazing lives. I hope you forget about me and move on because that's what you deserve. I love you more than you'll ever know. Mom. Dad read it twice and then handed it to me. I read it and felt anger burning in my chest because how dare she talk about drowning and being broken when she was the one who chose to leave. She made the choice to abandon us instead of getting help or talking to someone or doing literally anything else besides baking a cake and disappearing. Lily was too young to read it herself, so Dad had to read it out loud to her in simplified language. And she asked why Mom couldn't have just told us she was sad instead of leaving. Adults don't always make sense, sweetheart, was all Dad could say. We never heard from Mom again after that letter. Dad kept the letter in a safe place even though I told him I wanted to throw it away. He said someday we might want to read it again when we were older and could understand it differently. The divorce was finalized 5 months after she left. Dad got full custody of us, and Mom's parental rights were legally terminated. On paper, it was like she'd never been our mother at all. But in reality, her absence shaped everything about our lives from that day forward. Lily grew up barely remembering Mom, just having vague memories of someone who used to read her bedtime stories and sing to her. But I remembered everything. I remembered the good times before she left, and I remembered that last morning when she'd seemed so happy and so sad at the same time. I remembered her telling me to take care of Lily no matter what, like she was passing me a responsibility that should have been hers. As I got older, I went back and forth between hating Mom for what she did and trying to understand her struggles. Dad never remarried and never dated anyone seriously because he said he couldn't trust his own judgment about people anymore. We functioned as a family of 3, and we survived, but there was always this mom-shaped hole in our lives that never quite filled in. When I was 16, I found Dad looking at that birthday cake photo on his phone late one night. It was the picture Mom had taken of me spelling out Lily's name in sprinkles, and you could see just the edge of Mom's reflection in the kitchen window behind me, smiling. Do you think she ever regrets it? I asked him. Leaving us, I mean. Dad looked at the photo for a long time before answering. I think she regrets it every single day, but I also think she's too broken or too ashamed to come back and try to fix what she destroyed. Some people run away from their problems, and then they run so far that they can't find their way back even if they want to. We never found out where Mom ended up or what her life became after she left us. Sometimes I'd search for her name on social media or run Google searches hoping to find some trace of her, but she'd disappeared completely. It was like she'd erased herself from existence. Lily asked me once when she was 12 what I remembered most about Mom, and I told her about the birthday cake morning. I told her how happy Mom had seemed, how she'd sung while we baked, how she'd let me lick the spoon and hadn't cared about germs. I told her about the 3-page card I'd written and how Mom had cried reading it. I told her how Mom had hugged me so tight and made me promise to take care of her. Was she saying goodbye even then? Lily asked. While she was smiling and acting happy, was she already planning to leave? I nodded. Yeah, I think she was. I think that whole morning was her way of saying goodbye without us knowing that's what was happening. Lily was quiet for a minute and then said, I wish I could remember her better. I wish I had more than just the birthday cake story. That's the thing, though, I told her. That birthday cake story was supposed to be your best memory of Mom. She engineered that whole morning to be perfect, so you'd remember her as someone who loved you and wanted to make you happy. Instead, it became the memory of the day she left. She tried to give us something good, and it turned into something terrible. When I turned 18 and left for college, Dad helped me move into my dorm, and we stood there in my new room surrounded by boxes. You know what I regret most? He said suddenly. I regret that the last time I saw your mother smile was in old photos. I wasn't there that morning when she was baking with you. I didn't get to see her happy one last time. You and Lily did, and I know that's both a gift and a curse, but at least you got to see her smile even if you didn't know it was goodbye. I thought about that a lot over the years. When was the last time I saw my mom smile? It was that Saturday morning when I was 9 years old, when she was baking a birthday cake with me and singing and letting me lick the spoon. It was when she hugged me tight and told me to take care of my little sister. It was when she kissed my forehead and said I was such a good big brother. She was smiling the whole time, right up until the moment she walked out the door and disappeared from our lives forever. That smile haunts me, because it was real and fake at the same time. She was genuinely happy to be spending that time with me, making one last good memory, but she was also performing happiness, putting on a show so I wouldn't suspect what was about to happen. Now I'm 26 years old, and Lily is 22, and we're both adults trying to build lives that aren't defined by the mother who left us. Dad is in his late 50s and finally started dating someone seriously last year, a kind woman named Dorothy Mills, who lost her husband to cancer and understands what it's like to rebuild after loss. Sometimes when I'm having a particularly hard day, I think about that birthday cake and that smile, and I wonder if Mom thinks about it too. Wherever she is, I wonder if she remembers how happy she looked that morning, or if the guilt has rewritten that memory into something darker. I wonder if she knows that the last time I saw her smile became the defining moment of my childhood, the moment that taught me that happy moments can be lies, that people you love can disappear, that nothing is as permanent or reliable as you think it is. Lily asked me again recently. We were having dinner at Dad's house, and the question just came up naturally. When was the last time you saw Mom smile? And I told her the same story I've told her dozens of times before, about the birthday cake and the pink frosting and the rainbow sprinkles. But this time, I added something I'd never said before. The last time I saw Mom smile was the morning she left us. And even though that smile was connected to the worst day of our lives, I'm still glad I got to see it. Appreciate you watching this far. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you won't miss the next story.